Good afternoon, everyone. Come in. Afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting for a couple more to join, and then we'll be kicking off in a few minutes. See, we got a nice turnout. Just give us another minute or two, and then we will kick off. I hope everyone got their rum packs delivered to them. Anyone who didn't, just raise your virtual hand and maybe see if you can find some rum in your house or at the office, and we will send you a separate pack of rum. But I think everyone did get their their deliveries. Nice, Kumzi. Okay, how are we doing on numbers, Mel? Is that pretty much everyone?
There should be about 6 more. We should hit 30, but I'm sure they'll join when they're ready.
Okay.
So
Well, we'll give them another 30 seconds, and then we will kick off just to try and stick to time as close as we can.
Perfect.
Right, I think we are good. Eamon, are you up and running?
Yes, I am. All right.
Excellent. That's great. So we will kick it off just to stick with the timing as much as possible. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today again for a taste of both AI and some rum. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Timperley. I'm the Chief Executive at Teredo, and joining me is Eamon Afana, who's one of our Microsoft experts, and he'll be taking us through the Copilot experience and providing some live demos on the platform's capabilities as well. Just for anyone who doesn't know, from a Copilot experience, Copilot is Microsoft's AI platform based on ChatGPT. There are basically 3 flavors that are out there at the moment. So there is Copilot for Bing, which is effectively an everyday AI companion. If you currently have Office 365, you're very likely to already have access to this technology. Second is Copilot for Microsoft 365. That is the fully integrated application portion of Copilot. So that's trained on your SharePoint, your spreadsheets, email, PowerPoint, et cetera, And then the third one is Copilot Studio, which allows you to start working with custom databases within custom environments as well as API plugins. We will actually be touching on all 3 of those during the course of today's session in a very practical way of being able to use artificial intelligence in your business. We're also going to be covering some aspects around the importance of readying your environment and your tenant for the deployment of Copilot or any other AI technology for that matter. What we've really understood through our journey on artificial intelligence is that the risk of doing so or deploying artificial intelligence without the proper foundations are significant. We actually heard a story very recently from Microsoft themselves. There was a financial institution in the United States. They wanted to deploy Copilot in their business. They wanted to be at the forefront of it. So they authorized, or the CEO approved, Copilot licenses for all of the staff in the organization. And they were probably around, I think there were 350 staff. And one of the junior analysts got her Copilot license and almost testing the full capability of it, asked it if it would send her the CEO's payslip. And it subsequently did so a couple of seconds later. And within a 15-minute period, she continued to test and was able to pull all of the company's financial statements, all of the payroll, as well as the board packs for the organization. And fortunately for this business, she was not malicious. She actually took it to the leadership team and said, look, I've been playing around with my license, but it's showing me stuff that I'm assuming I shouldn't be able to see. And the leadership team immediately suspended their Copilot licenses. I'm sure they gave her a raise of some kind. And they brought in a team to obviously look at their permissions and their tenant and try and understand what had gone wrong. And what the problem actually was is 6 months prior to the deployment of Copilot, they had actually given this junior analyst a higher level of access on the tenant for some work that she was doing, and they had neglected to return that access back. So she was a global reader. And ultimately, the power that artificial intelligence enables when it's in an environment is obviously that it understands everything about every document, every file, every bit of information that sits inside that tenant. So it's a very unusual circumstance because most businesses do take their PIMs and their access security very seriously, but it just showcases the potential dangers of artificial intelligence if you don't have the right configurations and setup to start with. It's obviously very important to get those aspects right. It's also predicted, certainly in our customer base, that over 70% of our customers will be adopting some form of custom deployed artificial intelligence in their businesses within the next 18 months. So the growth and adoption of this technology is probably greater than any other tech that we've seen, certainly in such a short space of time. So please make note of any questions that you have during the course of the session. We've set aside some time at the end of the presentation for a Q&A, after which we will then be handing over to Sean Gunn from Whiskey Rebellion, and he's going to be giving us an education on rum without Coca-Cola, which sounds crazy to me. I also believe that Sean has just had a little one, so he probably needs the rum more than anyone else in this room. So congratulations, Sean, that's amazing. But I am going to hand over to Eamon and enjoy the session, and we'll see you just now. Over to you, Eamon.
All right, sweet. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying the rum. My name is Ayman Afana. I'm the partner technical strategist working with our distributors and our channel partners from a technical enablement perspective, as well as basically creating kind of new offers. So I'm really excited to kind of talk to you about what can we do with the new kind of wave of AI and basically how we are actually transforming our business into AI, and basically with Copilot as the front. And more importantly, key is basically the partnership that you will have, because it is AI and there's a lot of things that's as part of AI that needs to be tweaked and to be kind of careful. This is where kind of as a part, the choice of partner that can help you with in this journey is very key as well. So it's not just simply kind of the product, but it's also more the technical expertise and the technical services that we have there. So today basically we'll cover, just basically in general, 365 Copilot, what can we do and kind of what is the structure for, the architecture for it, and what are some of the cool things that we can do with it. And more importantly is basically how do we extend it and how do we actually create newer things that we can do with, either you want to do some certain workflows and how can I customize it for my business there, and what are the options that we have available. And we'll just go over some cool demos of just to kind of get a feel in terms of how would it look like end to end. So in terms of AI, it is real. It's not a hype. So if you look at the kind of the adoption that happened over the last 3 months, where it kind of reached 100 million users within 3 months, and comparing that with the kind of the phone business or the internet business, it is many folds basically in terms of the speed of adoption and more importantly the appetite for consumers as well as organization for this technology here as well. Now, in terms of basically, when we're looking at studies, it is basically a lot of the organizations are looking at it from a competitive advantage side. So it's not just simply basically, we've done kind of this study over, with a lot of kind of our enterprise customers, and and even through the MIT Sloan management review, it is basically kind of top of mind for most of the CIOs and in a lot of the organizations that we work with in terms of how can we utilize or at least adopt AI more, and basically kind of transform into a kind of an AI company as well. And basically to kind of how can we actually adopt all of these technology, the power that's actually coming in behind from AI there. Now, in terms of our story with AI, so basically we've been in AI for a long time. So the most kind of common, we have our AI story in multiple products because we do have multiple products, productivity suites across the board, from business applications such as Dynamics, Power Apps, developer tools, Visual Studio and GitHub. Now, I think the most prevalent one, which is basically for the everyday productivity and basically for most organizations, that's basically Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, the thing here is just basically it's embedded within basically the popular apps that you use every day. So it is embedded in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook as well, and as well as Teams. So here basically it gives you the power so you can be more creative in Word. So it's not basically replacing Word. It's basically just empowering Word and empowering you in Microsoft Word to become more creative there. And the same with Excel. It's basically giving you the ability to become more analytical and give you more insights about the data that you have. And with PowerPoint, having this more expressive PowerPoints and designing all of those kind of cool presentations there as well. And as well as more productive in Teams, and Teams and Outlook as well. All right. So basically, how does it work? Like how is it structured there? So basically, what Microsoft 365 Copilot, all it is basically the large language models that we have. Now, I think we'll touch upon that. It's not ChatGPT. It's basically the OpenAI large language models there. And it's a key difference because ChatGPT is more of the product of OpenAI models, and it's basically available more over the internet, and also basically providing it over chat, right? So, and that basically it's more of it is open. It does learn from outside data. Here, basically what we've done is, and we'll go into the architecture a little bit more, is basically take that model and just basically contain it within your organization and within your Microsoft 365 tenant. And we've integrated this with, the Microsoft Graph. Now, usually when we say Microsoft Graph, that's basically your data, and that's basically your, that's basically everything related to your data, from emails, tasks. Everything is represented within the Microsoft Graph on your Microsoft 365 tenant. So this is basically where your data, and usually this is the boundary of your data, is over there, basically. So whenever you hear Microsoft Graph, think of it as your data. This is kind of the idea. So we integrated the large language models with the Microsoft Graph so that it has the ability to pick a few things, to orchestrate a few things, and we integrated those into the Microsoft 365 apps. Plus, basically, we've kind of integrated all of that over the, with the power of internet, so that basically you can have this kind of more SaaS type applications. Basically, that's basically embedded within your. That's basically all related to your kind of data there as well. So in a nutshell, this is basically what Microsoft 365 Copilot is. It's basically a combination of those four components to basically enable you to become more productive there. So if you look at it just from a Geek Talk perspective there, so I'll just put the pointer here a little bit. So essentially what it is basically, this is a user, this is your Microsoft apps, and Copilot, what it is just basically kind of orchestrating a few things, right? And this is the Microsoft Graph. So the Microsoft Graph, think of it as all your, as I said, Teams, data. It's basically kind of connecting. This is how you have connectivity. Simple representation between Excel and Word, and they can speak the same language. And the cool part about the Microsoft Graph is basically you can access it through it does have the security model that's actually enabled part of the Microsoft Entra, or AKA Azure Active Directory. Plus, basically, it has the ability to kind of connect everything together. And you can have the ability to automate it using the Graph APIs, or basically you can, using the apps as well. So it's basically kind of giving you, this is your data, and basically this is where the graph is basically your access to this data. And it's actually governed by the security measures that we already have as part of the Microsoft Entra suite of products there. So basically what Copilot does is just basically calls the Microsoft Graph APIs. So it's basically connecting, you already have access to this Microsoft Graph APIs, and all Copilot is just basically calling those based on kind of the prompts that's actually coming in from the users. And then basically it's connecting everything together there. And then basically it's kind of correlating, and with the graph, it correlates with all of the other kind of stuff that you have, like with Microsoft Teams, the messages there, Exchange Online, or kind of your Outlook kind of emails, SharePoint, so on and so forth. So here I'll show you a video in terms of kind of the grounding and how does the messaging stuff work here. All right, there we go. And
Microsoft 365 Copilot is powered by what we call the Copilot system, a sophisticated processing and orchestration engine. It harnesses the power of 3 foundational technologies: the Microsoft 365 apps, that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, and more. The Microsoft Graph, that's all your content and context, your emails, files, meetings, chats, and calendar. And a large language model, or LLM, a creative engine capable of parsing and producing human-readable text. All accessible through natural language. It starts with a prompt from you in an app. Copilot pre-processes the prompt through an approach called grounding. Put simply, grounding improves the quality of the prompt, so you get answers that are relevant and actionable. One of the most important parts of grounding is making a call to the Microsoft Graph to retrieve your business content and context. Copilot combines this user data from the graph with other inputs to improve the prompt. It then sends that modified prompt to the LLM. You may be familiar with what an LLM can do based on your experience with ChatGPT or Bing Chat. Copilot takes the response from the LLM and post-processes it. This post-processing includes additional grounding calls to the graph, responsible AI checks, security, compliance and privacy reviews, and command generation. Finally, Copilot sends a response to the user and commands back to the apps. Copilot iteratively processes and orchestrates these sophisticated services to produce a result that feels like magic.
all right, perfect. So basically what we've seen is not just simply we hooked ChatGPT and put it in Microsoft Office. And the idea behind it is basically we've built this kind of more comprehensive open AI model that's actually only specifically for you, which is basically based on kind of our approach to kind of AI. So as part of its security, compliance, privacy, and responsible AI. So this is basically the approach behind Microsoft 365 Copilot, and this is our approach to AI and Copilot as well. Now, in terms of the, we've heard it before. Microsoft Cloud runs on trust. Basically, what that means, and just basically to kind of be more clear about it, your data is your data. So the idea here is basically we're not using this model. So what we've done is basically not just simply kind of, again, just call in some ChatGPT APIs and integrate and funnel it through basically our kind of graph APIs or our kind of Microsoft 365 tenant. What we've done is basically we've done an Azure OpenAI tenant or Azure OpenAI service specifically for your tenant, where we deployed it for your tenant. So the OpenAI is basically where the LLM model lives, right? And this is basically where most of the generative AI engine is there, model is there basically to kind of create all of this kind of magic that we're seeing there. So what we've done is we deployed this only specifically to your tenant. So, and your data is not being used to fine tune this AI model. So basically, this is specifically your AI model that's actually assigned to you as a Microsoft 365 kind of tenant owner or kind of a subscription owner. And more importantly, on top of that, which was already there, is basically your data, since basically this is all within the boundaries of your data, we are protecting your data through basically the current kind of security controls that we have, which is basically the Microsoft Entra suite, the kind of, if you add some more, conditional-based access, all of the kind of the security suites that comes through the Microsoft Entra, plus the other kind of components that you can actually implement as part of that suite there. So the idea here, basically, this is, think of it as your own private open AI model that's running in your tenant. That's basically only has access to, that this model is only specifically for you, and it's not basically being trained or fine-tuned, and we're not communicating any of the data or any training data to kind of a larger kind of type of learning model there. It's basically only specifically fine-tuned for your organization. Now, with that, basically, that's kind of where we are. We do have in mind basically kind of the protecting our information and basically kind of the sensitive business information. So we are an enterprise company, so it is basically top of mind for most of the enterprises we work with. So in terms of compliance boundary, we always make sure it remains within the Microsoft 365 boundaries. Also, in terms of data access, it's basically Copilot will not access anything. So what Copilot is basically, it's not a random user that has some access to some certain things. Copilot is basically just on behalf of the user, it will do certain actions. So think of it as kind of a shadow of the, not a shadow, but at least the assistant of the user, right? So it's your personal assistant. So whatever permissions you as a user have in those documents, it will have those permissions. Also from a data classification perspective, so on and so forth, it will have those same permissions. So all a Copilot is just basically your personal assistant that can talk to the Microsoft Graph much faster than you. And it knows how to do things faster. And more importantly, it can understand you using natural languages there. And more importantly, we do have like the controls. And this is where it's really important, and kind of like what we alluded to in the beginning, and this is where the partner is really important, is basically to make sure you have the right controls. So usually a lot of customers, they used to get away with not implementing certain security measures or not doing data classifications. And they used to get away with it because let's say you have a personal assistant or someone in the organization, they didn't know that they had access for the CEO like salary or kind of investment documents, so on and so forth, because they didn't have the tools to kind of get to those data there, and they didn't know about them anyways. Now with Copilot, it's using the same permissions, it will actually get that data for you. So that's why it's important. It's basically kind of making sure organizations are AI ready and actually implementing the security measures that they should have done in the first place. That's kind of the idea here. So we do have those controls. It's more importantly just a matter of using them. And then basically from a tenant perspective, it's your tenant, it's your data, and it's just basically, and it's not being cross-referenced with other data unless basically you have some cross-tenant or federation, so on and so forth. All right, so basically to recap, it's grounded in business data. We do have the full comprehensive security, compliance, privacy suite. It is architected to protect your data. It's integrated in the everyday apps that you use. And you do have the full control over basically the user. It's not a rampant AI that has some privileges that will access this. It's basically more about which users have certain access to which certain data that they have. And more importantly, it's designed to learn new skills there as well. So we'll get to that more important. Now, usually when we look at the productivity that we're looking at, usually we have it in 3 pillars. So one pillar is basically kind of, basically kind of from, unleashing the creativity, unleashing your creativity. And the other one is basically more, how do we actually start, instead of starting from scratch, how do I actually get the ball rolling in terms of productivity? And more importantly, unlocking my productivity from my everyday to-day skills there. So with that, basically, I'll basically kind of start basically some of the demos. So bear with me a little bit. All right, let me stop sharing. And in the meantime, do you have any questions? Is there any questions from the audience?
Here we go. We got a question from Vota.
All right,
Hi,
please, go ahead.
Yes, just the languaging model. What other languages does it support?
Good question. Actually, you know what? That's a good idea. That's a good point. That's a good segue. Let's ask Copilot. Let's give me 1 second. Let me just get Copilot here.
I do know from personal experience it speaks Afrikaans very well, because I was trying to show my daughter a couple nights ago for Afrikaans homework, and my queries yesterday all came back in Afrikaans. I had to ask it to please speak English to me again. So Afrikaans it has.
That's
right,
the
so-
answer I would like to hear. Perfect.
Done and done. I assumed as much.
So okay, you can see my screen, right? So basically with Copilot, this is from a productivity perspective. Copilot is embedded in Teams. So you have two places you can access this. One is basically through, actually three places. One through Windows 11. So you'll have it at the bottom corner where you can actually launch Copilot from there. The other one is basically through the web. So what you'll do is basically go to copilot.microsoft.com and you'll be able to access it from there. And there you have two options. One is web and the other one is your organization. And the other one is basically through Copilot in Teams, right? So here in Teams, I can ask it a whole bunch of questions there. And we have a lot of prompts here. So here, basically, I can see basically if there's any kind of action items that happen, so on and so forth. So here I can ask how many, let me see, how many languages does Copilot support? And, I think this is the work one. I think I need to kind of get the, this is getting access to the, all right, so here we go. So yeah, and you also have, the other ones here as well. And this is actually, it found it from internally, right? Now I can actually point it to the web as well to basically get more information from there as well. But this is kind of the idea here. Now, here I also can basically ask it a few kind of questions here as well, where I can say, how many times have I, have someone mentioned me in a, can you summarize all mentions of, me? Hang on. Yeah, let me see here. Okay, here we go. So here, basically, it will tell me basically based on all of the summaries in emails, in Excel, so on and so forth. It will actually all get them from here as well. So what we've witnessed in the first one is basically this is actually getting access from SharePoint and getting most of the information there. Here, basically, it's actually kind of looking at most of the kind of the summary of recent mentions of Ayman. So this is basically the sync, some of the data that we have, some of the files that we've done. Also, there's an email basically being sent to me. So this is basically all information that basically summarizes everything there. And more importantly, you have the citation for them as well there. So I can actually go ahead and look at the kind of the specific documents there as well. Now, I think there's a lot of, a lot of private information. So I hope no one was looking too deep into those there as well. Now, I think just to kind of showcase something real quick, which is basically the, give me 1 second here. To give you kind of a sense of how does it work, Copilot, Microsoft.com. All right. So what we've seen is basically in Microsoft Teams, you have two options for it. One, you can access it through Teams. The other one is basically you can access it, over here. It's basically you can access it through the web, right? And now with the web, basically you have two options. If you wanted to look at your your work data, you can actually switch it to the work data. And so here, basically, all it will do is basically just search internally, right? And basically look and catch up with all of the data that you have internally there as well. So basically, it will integrate everything that you have within that same organization, same tenant there as well. Now, also you can do the web. Here, the web is basically kind of what we're used to kind of being, Copilot, or basically Copilot in kind of everything web and through the Bing kind of Copilot as well there. So that's basically kind of the internet there as well. So here, basically, when I ask it the same questions, how many languages does Copilot support? Here, it will actually more monitor kind of what's available there on the internet. So here, basically, you have more entries. It wasn't kind of just looking for internal documents that we have there. Here, it's basically kind of adding a whole bunch of stuff there that's actually relating with kind of external data that we have there. Here as well, I think does Copilot support Afrikaans. This is how we spell Afrikaans, right? Or is there another key? Let us just see.
Close enough. 2 A's.
Close
Yeah.
enough. Let's see. Africa. Okay, it actually corrected me, and yeah, okay. So that's basically the idea. If you kind of ask it through the internet as well. So if I can just say, so yeah, that's basically some of the options that we have. So now what we can do, we can actually go into the kind of the demos of how do I use it in everyday kind of basically in my everyday productivity as well. So let me just do F11 and let's share this screen here. All right. Now imagine basically I'm in Outlook, and basically I have a lot of emails that I need to kind of I have a huge email thread that basically I need to respond to, and basically I came in late, I went on vacation, I came back, I'm like, oh god, it's like a this is like a 6 thread, 6 emails in. I really don't want to have the ability to kind of go in there and kind of just basically I wanted to summarize really quickly here. So here basically I can get Copilot to help me out with that. So instead of actually kind of trying to read through this old email thread, I can just basically ask Copilot, can you please summarize most of those things for me here? So within a few minutes, within a few seconds, Copilot will actually parse most of the data for me. And more importantly, it will actually give me the citations for them, right? So instead of actually now going and reading through this whole email thread, it can actually give me the pinpoints of what are the key elements that I need to kind of look at. And more importantly, it will give me basically the citations for them. So here, basically, I can click, where was this mentioned? And it will actually show me the email that was actually mentioned there. So you can actually get more about the context there as well. Now, in terms of the, basically, this is kind of some of the cool things that we can do with the Copilot there. And it actually helped me out in terms of summarizing the email there. Now, of course, with Outlook, there's more kind of capabilities in terms of helping you kind of draft the emails in a professional and other manners as well there. So now in terms of summarizing emails, that's one cool option. Now, the other part now in terms of productivity, where most of the time is basically meetings, right? So it's a really powerful tool to summarize the emails, but would it be cool to kind of summarize the meeting itself? And basically, more importantly, in the middle of the meeting, I can come in a little bit later and have it like kind of help me out there as well. So here, imagine basically I have a meeting there, and I just joined in, and the discussion is already happening, and already a lot of people kind of are discussing a few things here and there. So now instead of interrupting the meeting and asking everyone, can you please kind of loop me in, or what exactly happened, and kind of getting the different perspective. If the meeting is recorded and just transcribed, I can just ask Copilot to summarize it for me. So I can go ahead and start, kick off Copilot, and basically just simply say, can you please recap this meeting for me? So within a few seconds, it will actually read whatever happened in the transcription, plus basically whatever happened in the in transcriptions and in the video itself, and it will actually give me most of the summary that's happening in the meeting there. And more importantly, it will also give us the citations. So if you're recording the meeting, you can actually look at in terms of when was this mentioned, so you can actually also get better context. Now here, the cool part about the citations here in Outlook is you are still in full control. It's not AI going rampant and kind of deciding on your behalf. It's basically kind of giving you visibility on how did it get to that data. And this is really key in terms of AI, is basically kind of providing this visibility in terms of what you can do with it there. Now, basically right now, I want to actually, the cool part also about it is it's using the full suite of AI. So it actually can know in terms of sentiment as well. So here, basically, I can ask it questions, like really deep questions. So it's not just simply, can you please summarize what did you hear? It's more of, what's the context? What's your insights? And it can actually go deeper into that. So here, basically, I can ask Copilot, can you please, how does the group feel about inventory stats, right? So it's basically a question about knowing who is with what. So here, basically, it can give me this answer within a few seconds here as well. So it's basically based on the transcription and with the sentiment analysis, so on and so forth, give me basically the context that I'm actually looking for. So it's not just simply, give me information in certain instances. It's actually give me some more insights about it as well. So yeah, that's basically now, as well as basically I can say, okay, what are some of the questions unresolved? And so you can ask it those questions where, based on where the feelings, what are the open action items there? So if you are now, from moving forward, if you are the person who everyone is telling, can you please take notes? Just tell them yes. You'll be good with Copilot, because Copilot will do all the work for you. So you look like a rock star without actually having to do any of the work there as well. But this is where basically it's really important to, with Copilot, it will really help you out with that one there as well.
Just to add some context there as well, because we did a deployment of Copilot in our business a couple months ago, and just to kind of describe the kind of power that we're talking about here, it isn't just a generic summary of that email or the context around the team's discussion. It understands inflection. It understands whether there was certain people in the meeting who were upset, or certain people who had a big disagreement that remained unresolved. Its ability to understand perspective and context of a discussion is genuinely closer to human than anything we've seen before. And we've used, prior to deploying Copilot, a lot of different tools for summarizing this type of stuff. So that really is one of the more powerful aspects when you start playing around with Copilot. Sorry, carry on, Eamon.
No, perfect. So, adding to that is basically, a lot of people kind of use. So, I think one of the most undiscovered feature in M365 is Microsoft Loop. So Loop is basically, it's a really cool feature where it's a kind of a live document that happens, where basically you can update it. When you send it in an email, it's actually continuously kind of updating there. So it's not just simply you need to send a few emails. It's embedded within the Microsoft 365 suite. So here with Copilot, it can definitely help you out there to kind of kick the ball rolling there. So here, basically, let's say I want to create some, I want a Copilot to help me out in kind of creating kind of the structure for the meeting. So I'm gonna have a product launch kickoff, and I want to set up the agenda. So instead of me kind of trying to figure out what's the right agenda, and then basically having a lot of people kind of mentioning a few things here and there, or at least everyone with ideas, I can get Copilot to decide for us, or at least to kind of create, like get the ball rolling there. So here I can go ahead and say create, and in the prompt, I can say just, can you please propose an outline for an upcoming meeting to discuss the product launch? So here, what it'll do, it'll actually kind of structure everything for me, so that basically those are the key points that I need to kind of discuss. And within a few seconds, Copilot can give me the full kind of structure in terms of how to run the meeting there. So it's a really powerful tool to kind of get the ball rolling there as well. Now let's say basically here I want to turn this, instead of a list, I want it in a paragraph, so I can send it over an email, or just basically instead of having bullet points, I want to have the discussion there as well. So you can have that ability there as well. So with a few seconds, Copilot will turn all of these points into kind of a more of a cohesive paragraph that you can take a look at it from end to end there as well. Now let's basically select on the discussed. So basically here, the ability to let's paste some text that we copied earlier, and we want to edit the paragraph even further. So let's basically kind of select some pasted document here as well. Within, after kind of the after discussed, and where basically I'm saying anyone can prompt Copilot to build on each other's type. So the idea here behind it is, someone else, you had someone working on this document, and then someone else basically came in and they wanted to add something to it. So someone basically added in the near future. So basically, based on kind of the document, you have other people can collaborate together and see basically how they can edit it together. And more importantly, you can see the prompts that the other person has done. So you can know basically if this was AI generated as well. So it gives you the ability to kind of collaborate together, and basically with the option of undoing any of the instructions. So basically you have the ability where if someone gave an instruction from Copilot, the other person can come in and can see basically, oh, well, wait, I need to add this, I need to kind of this. So this is where basically edit to collaboration with AI. So it's basically you're editing kind of what's the content there that happened with AI. Well, more importantly, you have the full visibility there as well. All right, so with that, that's kind of the productivity suite of it. I'll pause here just to see if there's any questions related to basically kind of the, for the, give me 1 second. If there's any questions here.
You'll see I've posted the screenshot that I quickly took as well, just to show its capability in Afrikaans, but it is very fluent.
Yeah.
Certainly too fluent for me.
Well, I think there was I did the demo before, and I think I asked it, do you support? I think I asked, the prompt that I asked is, do you support Afrikaans? And I wrote it correctly. Let me see if it brought it back up. Okay. No. So yeah, that's basically it. All right. So if you want, we can start the next kind of demo. Now, what we're going to see right now is basically how do we do creativity, and basically how do we. All right. Let me just close this here real quick, and let's put this here. All right. Okay. Okay. Now, again, let's basically kind of go on a journey where I have a meeting, I have a marketing meeting, right? Now, basically here I'm in Teams, and I'm basically using Whiteboard. Whiteboard is a very powerful tool where you basically have multiple people can actually add sticky notes, they can draw their ideas, and it basically kind of provide this kind of leverage or opportunity for people to organize their ideas. Now, I think what we're going to look at here is basically, usually with brainstorming sessions, it is very challenging to run because you have multiple ideas and everyone has ideas. Everyone has basically, everyone has a lot of ideas that they want to add, and it's usually hard to kind of structure everything there. So now I think here with the opportunity with Copilot, you can have Copilot integrated with Whiteboard to kind of integrate all of that together for you there. So here what we're looking at from a creativity perspective, we're coming up with the ideas, and we're going to create the documents, and then we're going to create the PowerPoint presentation. Plus, we're going to have with the Excel kind of the data analysis there as well. So, we can get the ball rolling there where I can say, go ahead and suggest some ideas, right? Now, with Copilot, I can actually just talk to it like an assistant, right? So I can say, can you please give me some inexpensive ways to optimize the website? So within a few seconds, it will actually generate a whole bunch of ideas for me to kind of, to structure all of the ideas that I have. So it can give you ideas that's actually relevant to the topic that you're looking for. And it will actually understand what you're trying to do there. Now, you're still in full control. So if you want to generate more ideas, you can actually generate some more ideas here. So I can say, you know what, those are good ideas, but I want even more ideas here. So with Copilot, it will actually get even more, it will get us even more ideas here as well. So in terms of the, either test SEO tactics, prioritize keywords, so on and so forth. Now, if I like those ideas, I can just go ahead and insert. And now I have a structure basically from where to kind of get the ball rolling. And what are some of the ideas that we want to get there as well. So it is kind of worthwhile to kind of get Copilot to at least lead the way. And then basically you can structure it from over there. Now, let's say we want to dig deeper into prioritize keywords. So we can actually go within keywords and say, please suggest some more ideas here as well. Like, can you dig deeper into this idea here? So with the same format, it will actually create even more ideas for you that you can actually add here. So from a blank space, we ended up now with, how many ideas are those? So we have like 10 and 15, like with 15 ideas that basically will help us with a more kind of, and also digging deeper into some of the kind of the threads that we have there as well. So this is a kind of a very powerful tool where Copilot can help you basically kind of collaborate more together with your colleagues there. Now, let's say basically I want to write up the document now, right? So now I'm basically kind of, okay, we got those ideas, let's actually create them there. Now with Copilot, the cool part about it is I can basically reference, when you do the /, you can reference other things as well there. So here you can reference anything, not anything, but at least within the Microsoft 365, unless you've had like a plugin there. But the idea here, basically, I can reference all documents I can reference basically OneNote. So if you have like a weekly agenda that you want to create from it, or you summarize some ideas in OneNote, Microsoft Loop, so on and so forth, you can reference it there. Plus, basically, you can create it from PowerPoint. So let's say basically you have the PowerPoint and you need to create a document from it. You can do that there as well. So here, basically, let's say I want to create it from a document, and I can go ahead and say generate basically my ideas here. So within a few seconds, I basically have the full structure of the documents that I wanted to do within a few seconds, without actually having to do, basically kind of kept the full document with the full structure, and basically based on the previous document, kind of some of the content there as well. So here, basically what it helped me is having a consistent structure, and without having the need to copy paste a few things here and there. And then when you do a paste, it actually is, messes up the whole kind of macros, the indents, everything like that. It's always something with Word. Like when you paste something, it always comes up as Times New Romans for some reason. You don't know why. Here, at least, you can do it in a more structured way. And I think that's kind of the cool part here. And here is basically you're always in control. Basically, you are kind of in control. So we'll say, OK, go ahead and keep it. Now, basically, I want to elaborate a little bit more somewhere, right? So in some of the kind of, in one of the documents here, let me go back up. All righty then. Here we go. Okay. All right. There we go. I want to paste a few, I want to add more to the kind of the project scope, right? So here, basically in the project scope, I want to add a few things. So here I pasted some snippets here. So I'll paste it here. Here, basically, it has some few information, right? Which is basically the building information modeling. It gives you some examples about them, and we want to elaborate more on kind of what are the advantages there as well. So here, instead of kind of starting from scratch and trying to type everything like what's the benefits of laser scanning and total robotic, so on and so forth, Copilot can help us out. So what Copilot will do will actually read whatever happened in the paragraph before. And it will basically kind of create some cool ideas for you here. So you don't have to actually start from scratch. And sometimes you don't need to even to write anything in the prompt. You can just say, go ahead and inspire me based on whatever you have document. Here it will see you have like a semicolon. This is kind of the statement that you're making. It will actually build on top of that. So you can just say, go ahead and inspire me. It will actually create create the content that you needed. So it will tell you what are the benefits of laser scanning, robotic total stationing, so on and so forth. So it will actually create all this content for you without having the need to kind of type it in yourself. So here, within a few seconds, you were able to kind of create the full document, add a few things there, and Copilot has been, help you basically kind of create it throughout the way here as well. So this is kind of the really powerful part about Copilot. It's you are in control, you own the content. It just basically helps you to automate it faster. Now, or at least to get there faster. Now, with PowerPoint, it's also equally important, equally powerful here. So now, usually with PowerPoint, the challenge is how do I create the visuals? I have the content, it's there. And usually the challenge, if you have a Word document, when you want to create it into PowerPoint, it ends up basically kind of like a copy paste of text in the middle of the PowerPoint. There is no visualization. There is no kind of cool things there. So this is kind of where Copilot can really help you out using kind of the image processing capabilities, where it will actually create basically the right kind of visual assets that you need to kind of succeed and create the powerful kind of presentation that you need. So we can say go ahead and create, get started. We want to get Copilot get started here, and I can go ahead from the file here. I can say please transform a file for me. So here I can reference an existing file, existing Word documents, existing PowerPoints, even from slides. So, and also in terms of team sync notes as well, right? So I have a team sync notes. We've summarized a few things. I want to create a PowerPoint presentation as a status. So you have the full capability there as well. So here I want to create it from this document here, and I'm going to go ahead and send, and boom, that's it. Like from the document that I have, which is basically more of a kind of a description of kind of what we need to do. Here you'll have a full PowerPoint presentation about how to actually execute it there. It's really kind of a powerful tool to help you create the visuals faster and create the flow in a more creative way there. And finally, basically now let's take a look at the data, right? And this is where it's really important. Usually with Excel, there's a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of kind of keyboard shortcuts that you can do. There's a lot of cool things that you see people doing it, but it ends up not remotely close. Or at least you need to kind of do a lot of research online just to figure out how to kind of the shortcut to kind of minimize like the number of decimals, right? Here, the cool part with Copilot, you can talk to it as an assistant, right? So here, let's say in the sales section, I want to remove basically the decimals there. Now, usually what used to happen, I used to have to click on the kind of the reduce the number of decimals here. I need to kind of figure out where was this, highlight those two things here, so on and so forth. Here, I can just talk to it as if I'm talking to a person. So here, I can just say, please don't show decimal points for sales amounts. So here, within a few seconds, I can just say, basically, go ahead and please don't show decimals. So what we've seen here, don't show decimals in the sales section. So here, you didn't have to specify the tables or the columns. It just basically understood sales, and it saw the whatever title you had there as sales, and it basically kind of removed those there. Now, the cool part again is transparency, and this is where it's really important for AI, is the transparency piece. So here, basically, it did the magic for you, and it told you where did it do the magic. So this way, you know exactly what's going on there. Plus, you have the ability to undo it as well. So you are still in full control. It just made it simply faster for you to get there. But the idea here, instead of you searching for a few seconds just to kind of online how to do a certain thing, you can ask Copilot, and Copilot will actually do it for you. And that's the cool part there. So you don't have to watch YouTube videos in order to do a certain thing. Here's the same thing if I want to highlight some certain data. So I want to basically mark in yellow gross sales over 500K. Again, it used to kind of, you have to go to the data section, go basically kind of create an formatting as that if the value is higher than this, please execute X, Y, and Z. Here, within a few seconds, I can just say basically mark it in yellow. Now here you also have the capability to put icons there as well. So it's not just simply it's not just simply basically kind of what you call it. So basically it's not just simply kind of putting not just yellow, but you can actually add the symbols, the figures, so on and so forth. Now, more importantly, I want to do some insights. Now, with this, usually you need to create a pivot table. You need to create a whole bunch of other things there. Here, the cool part is you can have Copilot do that for you. So instead of you going on chart, insert, see where you want to add it, kind of figure out the series, you can just say, for Copilot, can you please, go ahead and create this insights for me here as well. So within a few seconds, it will actually create the insights for me, and it will actually show it to me here as well. So basically, these are some of the gross sales per day. Now I can be greedy. I can say basically, you know what? Just show me everything. Show me all the data that you can. So it will create a pivot table for you. It will create all the charts for you within a matter of seconds. So I can say basically go ahead and add all the insights to a new sheet. So here what it'll do, it'll actually parse all this data, do all the correlation that you need, and basically put it together in the format, in the kind of the way that you want to do it there. It's a really powerful tool to help you basically from zero with no ideas to creating the documents, creating the PowerPoint to present to your to the management team, plus to doing the analysis for your data there. So it's basically really unleash kind of the creativity and to get the ball rolling there faster. So with that, I'll stop the demo and I'll just see if there's any questions, any comments.
Just raise your digital hands and we'll come to you. What about asking it to sum all the values in the table column net sales under value? Can you do that for us quickly, Amin? Just total those values in the column at the base. Hang
okay.
on, sorry. Total. He's saying, what about asking it to sum all values in the table column net sales under $50,000? So yes, adding everything under $50,000 together.
I just removed the what is it? The demo. But yes, you can actually do it, and it's easy. It's basically you can. It's very easily done within the what you call it, the prompt. Yeah, I can show. We have the files. We can share it together, basically in terms of how to actually do it there as well.
Excellent. Another question coming through: how long have been working with Copilot to get this understanding? So I think, Michael, maybe I can talk a bit about that. It's actually a really good question that you asked, because the reality is, for the most part, because the technology works on natural language, pretty much zero training is required. Like, it very rarely doesn't understand the context of your prompt. And even if it doesn't, there's very small tweaks and corrections that you can make to your prompt in order to get it right. But having said that, we have found that prompt engineering is incredibly powerful in this space. And in fact, during the session, we will arrange to drop a PDF into the chat that talks about prompt engineering. That's the recommended approach from Microsoft on Copilot. And it talks about the 4 areas of structure. So the 4 things that you should always try and include in a prompt to get the best result. So there are incredible ways to get amazing results from it. But to be honest, it doesn't take a lot of exposure and experience to be able to use it. Pretty straightforward. Another question here from Sean: any integration with Power BI yet? Eamon?
Oh, definitely. And Power BI. So the idea is basically through Microsoft Fabric, and you basically want to use this with Microsoft, with Copilot there, correct?
It looks like it, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, it is coming, and it is. I think right now you do have the sentiment analysis already there in Microsoft Power BI, so you do have that ability to search it there, and we do have the plugins in Power BI as well, and we can showcase basically how to from Microsoft Teams, where you can add that plugin, where it will actually, you can have that capability through Teams and through the plugins to Power BI as well. So it is there from integrating Copilot with the data that you have in Power BI.
Right. From Rowan, is it able to read multiple sheets and/or Excel files? How far can its analytics go?
Yes. So I think, as can be seen here, kind of like in terms of the semantic index. So what it'll do is basically Copilot will learn your own data and basically enables things there as well. So what's happening here basically is kind of looking at your sales report, kind of looking at who are the people that are, kind of question, having those data there. It will actually link most of those data together, and especially like even at the beginning when I said, give me all the mentions. So it integrated more than one source of data together to link it there as well. If the question is basically, if you have 2 Excel sheets, it just depends on the scenario. Like if there's 2 Excel sheets that you want to combine kind of the results for it, it usually does able to kind of correlate both together and correlate who actually sent it. So it basically kind of correlate all of these data together. So it definitely does it. I just wanted to see if the example that you're giving from 2 sheets together it's basically about, it depends on whether the data they complete each other or basically they're separate data entry points, but it can correlate
related to each other. I mean, as an example, if you had sales figures from last month and this month, or over a 12-month period, all in separate Excel spreadsheets, because the data is related, it'll understand the context of those sales spreadsheets, the fact that the data is related to each other, and do whatever comparisons and analytics that you need between those. In honesty, even if they weren't related, wow, it gives it a pretty good crack. It looks for a way to try and relate the data if you are insistent on it, comparing other documents. One of the interesting things as well is that when you do ask it for information that it believes the context isn't there, it will bring that up as if it, a human being is questioning that scenario. So it will say, I know that you've asked me to compare these 2 files, but they don't seem related. However, I did find this file and it does seem related. Would you like me to do the comparison there? So it is very intuitive when it comes to the comparison of data analytics.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, goes hand in hand with the semantic index. So basically with semantic index, it's actually understands, what will happen is it will create an index specifically for your organization. where it basically correlates all the data that you have and correlate it together there. So it will learn new skills. So the more you use it, the more it will learn the relevant documents within your organization and how they're related to each other. So this is basically where it will actually become even faster and becomes even more sophisticated to kind of connect everything together within your organization while maintaining the pillars that we have from from our AI kind of policy, which is basically secure, compliant, and basically more importantly from a privacy preserving way. But this is kind of alluding to that question there as well.
Right.
Now, in terms of
thanks, Sam.
Yeah. So now, in terms of, I want to, Copilot is awesome. I can look at my data from Outlook, from Excel, PowerPoint, so on and so forth. Now, usually most organizations, they have multiple products. They have not just basically with their sales numbers on Dynamics or in a SQL Server. They have it basically also done in other projects. Let's say SAP, where you have your ERP system there, even like Salesforce. So here, basically, how do we kind of enable kind of customizing Copilot so that Copilot can actually correlate everything together in one location. So this is what we're going to discuss, is basically how to what's the process to kind of customize Copilot and basically to kind of create that workflow that's basically specifically for your organization that will help you basically exceed there faster. So with that, basically, usually the way that we're doing it is Copilot Studio. Now, this is basically Copilot Studio for that's include. So we'll discuss it later, but the idea is Copilot Studio comes baked in as part of the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license. So you would already have access to it there, as long as it's basically within Teams and within basically kind of the environment within basically kind of from a chatting perspective there. So basically, it can with Copilot Studio, you can connect Copilot to your data everywhere. You can customize it basically for your business need, and more importantly, as an IT admin, you will have the ability where basically, okay, someone can create a plugin for Copilot Studio for a certain workflow. You as an IT publisher, IT manager, you can actually publish it in your tenant, and it would look as if it's actually another extension out there that's internal only for your organization. And more importantly, you can kind of control who gets to kind of create plugins, who cannot, so on and so forth. So you have the full kind of control over these things here. Now, basically customizing it is basically, we do have the premium. So basically Copilot Studio in Copilot 365, the one that's included there. You can basically extend, Copilot to work with, the way that you need. So it can connect basically to CRM, ERP, finance systems, and basically, we have our partners who actually published more than 1,200 plus premium connectors, right? Plus basically incorporate it into your business process there as well. So the idea here basically is Copilot will correlate all of the data, not just simply within the Microsoft 365 graph. It can also bring it from other systems as well. And this is kind of the really cool part here as well. Now, the other part is basically you also have Copilot as a standalone, which is basically kind of think of it as the Power Virtual Agents. That's now basically it's now being repurposed as the Copilot Studio, which is basically this is the premium premium tool that we have, which is more AI based, more AI kind of aware, and basically where it can integrate everything as a standalone. So we'll go over the options there as well. Now, in terms of how does it work, it's basically very similar to Copilot for 365. The only difference is there is basically, it's just basically kind of integrates with the other kind of, you do have the, instead of doing the triggers with Microsoft Graph, it just connects basically with the data somewhere else. So when you have the prompt, it will actually get the kind of the triggers there. Here it has the ability to connect, with the Microsoft Graph. And if the Microsoft Graph can call a plugin, it will actually go into that system of record, which is CRM, ERP, so on and so forth. And it will follow the same logic that we've designed there as well. And plus, it will integrate it with the large language model that we have. And that's basically the flow. It's just basically kind of prompt, Copilot. Let's work with the Microsoft Graph. Is there a plugin to kind of from the Microsoft Graph to those ERP systems? Yes. Go ahead, fetch them, and then integrate it with the large language model. So the only piece here is just simply kind of adding the the external systems, which we see here in the diagram as CRM, ERP, and HR. So think of it as the external systems that we have there. All right, so let's go to the next slide here.
I think we are almost out of time, so I think let's do a last slide over here, and then we will cut over to the run.
All right, sweet. All right, so let's just play this, and then we're good to go. So this is basically how to create Copilot Studio. And how does the process work?
Copilot Studio is a low-code tool that enables you to create new Copilot experiences across Microsoft 365 through connectors and plugins, all governed through IT. Let's take a common example, travel budgets and expenses, a process that is unique to every organization. Here we are in Copilot chat. You've seen Copilot quickly and easily summarize documents, like this travel policy. But what if you wanted to know more? Like how much of your team's travel budget is left for the rest of the quarter? Copilot will find information from the Microsoft Graph, but that's only going to get you so far, because the data you're looking for resides in a system of record. With Copilot Studio, you can customize your Copilot to access data from first and third-party sources. Just start by giving your topic a description for what you want it to do. In this case, providing richer details on expense questions. Copilot Studio allows you to tap into any data source, including websites, Azure services, and coming very soon, you can even access and use OpenAI's GPTs from right within the Copilot Studio. And with over 1,100 out-of-the-box options to connect, you can steer Copilot to the right information, in this case, SAP. Since the travel policy is on SharePoint, you can connect that too, so Copilot can keep track of any policy updates. As you can see, we're giving Copilot instructions to let the model know how to generate responses. Once you've completed your customization, you just hit publish. And the best part, IT only needs to build it once, and it can be reused across the organization, and you can manage it all in one central place. Now let's go back to the chat to see how Copilot handles your question. You use the same prompt, and just like that, your new customized Copilot gives you the answer you were looking for. Now you know exactly how much budget is remaining. And thanks to the data you just connected, you also know that any new travel needs to be booked before December 30th to stay within policy. The possibilities for what you can create here are truly limitless.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Eamon. Appreciate that. And we are at the end. Oh, yeah. Sorry, let me just pause you there. We are at the end of the business side of the discussion, but we hope that you all had a very interesting insight into Copilot and how we're practically using it at the moment. And again, either at the end of the run tasting, a couple of us will stick around, so you're welcome to stay and ask us any questions after that, or directly after that, just reach out to your account manager or any of the management team in general. We'll very gladly assist you with any questions that you have with it. Eamon, thank you again for the detailed breakdown of Copilot and everything around it. We are going to hand over to Sean. Sean, are you with us? We know that you've just had a little one, so you might be out of sorts. No, you look very strong. You must have been climbing into the rum already. Good man.
Jeez, that's kind of you. Thank you.
Congrats again. Over to you, Sean.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to the sort of tail off to the day and to the session. Before I sort of get into an intro, I just want to make sure that we've got our boxes set up. So in your pack that you would have received, you should have gotten a box that looked like this. And inside are a whole bunch of goodies, including a setup instruction guide. Oh, it's blurry, but yeah, there we go. And on the back of that guide is going to be how to basically set up your tasting. So in the box, there should be a where do we go here? There should be a tasting mat that looks like this with numbers 1 to 6. And you are going to just place your glasses that you got in your pack onto those different numbers, and then take your vials out Thank you, Brian. You're doing a very good job there as assistant. And take each one of the vials out, pour obviously the corresponding number from the vial into the corresponding number on the mat, and just get all 6 of those rums out and poured because they need to breathe a little bit and they need to sit. Your box has got a lot going on in there. There is a little wedge of a type of cake, which I'm going to talk to you about just now. Don't eat it yet. And then at the bottom of the box, and you may have to break open the box for this because we do glue them closed, is a sleeve of 5 chocolate truffles. So just get those out because I'm going to guide you as to where to put those truffles just now. And then the last component is a pipette, which is in the top of the sort of box sleeve, and that's just placed into a glass of water. Any old glass, doesn't really matter. And we are going to then start the tasting.
Can we place the pipette into a glass of Coke?
You can. These are sipping rums, but we'll talk about that. That's actually a nice way for us to kick off because I'll remember that Coke talk straight off the bat because that is pertinent to us as South Africans. So once you've got your numbers set up, in fact, let me just do a quick introduction and then we'll look at the chocolates so that I know that all of you have got your tasting mat set up. My name is Sean, and from Whiskey Rebellion in Johannesburg and also Wild About Whiskey in Dahlstrom. I'm actually based in Dahlstrom at home at the moment because of baby. And we are spirits specialists. We basically do tastings in anything that is high proof alcohol. And we try and basically bring across the educational side of each one of these various spirits. This is the first time we're doing rum with Torito, which is awesome because it's a fun one for me, particularly because it has grown in popularity so rapidly outside of the rum and Coke space. The idea of sipping rums, which all 6 of these are, is something relatively new to South Africa, but not new to countries like the UK or America, where about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, rum was pinned as the next big thing after gin, at least sipping rums like these. And to be honest, we haven't seen that globally. The big journalists from those days who wrote about this new trend emerging were maybe a little bit short-sighted in the fact that rum is still considered a brown spirit, still in the same sort of category as whiskey, and therefore hasn't gained as much popularity with the gin and tonic movement, or at least it hasn't picked up as many followers as gin has, because gin has now become very much multicultural, multi-gender. Anybody and their dog likes a gin, and a very particular gin, whereas something like rum, and you'll see tonight, is still very heavy on flavor, still very particular to the drinker. And that's something that we're going to look at. And interestingly enough, we were looking at data from 2 or 3 years ago up until now. And the only spirit that has come close to reaching gin numbers for us, particularly in our bar in Dahlstrom and retail store, is tequila as a spirit. Tequila definitely been South Africa's next big thing. And it's just really interesting to see that as a trend, despite the fact that tequila, in most people's opinion, is probably less accessible than rum on a sipping level. But yeah, taste these tonight and see for yourself. It's quite interesting to explore rum in a different light and in a different view. And the 6 that we've got tonight are quite widely varied, different regions, different types of rums, but we'll go through them all one by one. Okay. So before we get started, let's just look at these chocolates. This should be in your pack. The reason why I have to go through this now is that each one of these packs was put together by Goldhof Chocolates and Santon, and I don't think they put them in the same order for all the different packs. So I need you to look carefully at each one of these. And in this order that I've got them on the screen right now is the order that we're going to have them, except there's a bit of a difference. The very first chocolate, the sort of lighter brown round chocolate with the white stripes on the left-hand side, is a coconut truffle, and that is going to go with rum number 1. So you can just put it next to rum number 1. The second chocolate, which is white with a little bit of sprinkling, dusting of cocoa powder on the top, that is our cappuccino truffle. That is going to go with rum number 3. All right, so we're skipping chocolate with rum number 2, and you'll understand why when we get there. Number 3, over there, the dark, sort of flatter chocolate with white stripes, that is going with rum number 4. That is our dark salted caramel truffle. Then we've got chocolate number 4, which is very similar to number 3, except it's lighter, but also a flat chocolate that is caramelized hazelnut. That is going with rum number 5. And then the sort of very truffly, they call it a spiked truffle, right on the end, that is going with rum number 6, our dark vanilla truffle. Right. If you didn't catch all of that, just as we go through it, I'll mention which chocolate is going with which rum as we go through it. All right. So we like to, as a group, when we do tastings, particularly in person, because usually we have about 30 people in front of us and I get to interact with you. Doing it over digital platform is a bit tricky because we don't get to ask as many questions or have as much interaction with you as a group. But please feel free to make use of the chat function. If I can just ask maybe Brian or Melissa or Colin or anybody who's there just to keep an eye on that, and if questions come up, just to stop me. And you yourself, if you're a guest on this, please feel free to unmute yourself, interrupt me. That's kind of par for the course here. Ask questions as they pop into your mind. There's no such thing as a silly question. But make use of the chat. And I think to start off with, let's talk about what rum is. And bear in mind, we call it a spirit. And when we're talking about a spirit, we are talking about a low alcohol beverage that we're all familiar with, that is generally distilled, and we capture vapors that come out of the stills, and we do something with those vapors. Now, in the case of a whiskey tasting, we would be talking about what rum is. We're talking about grain, water, and yeast. That combination makes beer. That is our low alcohol beverage that we put into pot stills and boil it up, and then we get our new make spirit, the whiskey spirit, out the other side. If we're doing a brandy tasting, we are swapping beer for wine. We are putting grape-based wine into the pot still, boiling that up, and we get our eau de vie out the other side, which can be turned into brandy. If we're doing a tequila tasting, we're swapping grape for agave, for cactus plant, basically. And that is our beer. It's an agave beer that goes into the pot stills. Okay, so you can see the trend. All we're doing is we're switching out a certain carbohydrate. In the case of rum, rum is one of the cheapest and easiest spirits to make because its base carbohydrate is one of the cheapest and easiest to get your hands on, and that is because it is sugar. All right, all rum is derived from sugar in different forms. Tonight, we're basically looking at mostly sugarcane juice-based rums. Depending on which country is producing which rum, varies the type of processed sugar we're using. But for the sake of argument for tonight, we're mostly using sugarcane. And to that end, rum-producing nations pretty much follow the sugarcane growing nations. Okay, so here's a nice map. You can pretty much see in the tropics, wherever there's green, that is where sugarcane is produced, and that is generally where rum is produced. And you can see a huge concentration around the Barbados, Caribbean area, northern South America, India, subcontinent, Asia, obviously all these Papua New Guinea countries, Southeast Asian countries. And then you can just see in Africa, there's a tiny little dark green speck at the bottom there, and that is because South Africa is also considered a major rum producing nation. And then one that's very difficult to see on this map where my cursor is now is Mauritius, being arguably one of the most well-known rum producing nations in the world. So where sugarcane is being grown generally is where rum is being produced, in the same way that where grapes are being grown is generally where brandy or wine is being produced. So obviously it follows the agricultural product. So rum starts its life off as sugar, water, and yeast. And the difficult side of rum tastings for us is that of all the spirits that we deal with in these tasting sessions, rum tends to be the most unregulated. It is the one that, depending on if you fall under the EU or if you fall under American legislation or South African, you have different sets of rules that define what rum is. So it makes it really confusing when you taste rums, which you're going to do tonight, and you're going to see how vastly different they are, yet they are still classed as the same product. So we, as a company, have sort of broken it down into two very generalized categories. We have what we call true or pure rum, which is only using 3 basic ingredients, and that is sugarcane or sugar in whatever form, water, and yeast. The 4th sort of ingredient is going to be barrel. Okay, so barrel aging. So you can see every single rum that's in front of you is brown. It is a brown spirit. That's meaning it is barrel aged. It is gaining color from that barrel. Every single one of these rums is barrel aged. So to stick in our true rum category, we are looking for no additional additives. Some of you may be Captain Morgan drinkers. Captain Morgan is what we class as a spiced rum. It is what we call as a non-true or non-pure rum. In other words, a flavored rum. Voter, I can see that your vials are still filled with rum. Pour them out, man. Get them into the glasses, all of them. Get them breathing. So if we start moving into rums that have spiced or words like spiced or vanilla or something like that, they are still legally allowed to use the word rum, but we are not going to categorize them as true rum. They have added flavor, they have an enhanced flavor, and certain countries around the world legally allow this, no problem, and you can still call it rum without even putting what you've added into it on the bottle. Okay, it's crazy. So often producers will send us a sample of a rum and we'll smell it, and it smells like some cinnamon spiced liqueur. And it's a product that we can't get behind because it doesn't seem like a fair example of what a rum should be or what a rum is. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there. We're going to start off with rum number 1, top left. And this, we're starting with a pure rum. It may not be the easiest one to start with because it is reliant the most on its barrels, in which case it's going to taste the rummiest, if I can say that. But I want to show you the pure kind of dichotomy of where the